With the sun shining in through her windows, Twilight woke up with a short yawn. Rainbow's floof was still nestled up against her cheek, and she could have sworn that it had gotten softer and floofier during the night. Rainbow softly snored away, twitching in her sleep. The tips of her wings trembled as a small grin grew on her lips. A silly idea popped into Twilight's mind. While she loved snuggling with Rainbow and nuzzling her floof like it was the best thing in all of Equestria, she pushed herself off and out of Rainbow's embrace, taking care not to wake her up. After shooting a wistful glance at Rainbow's floof one last time, she sighed and crept into her bathroom, shutting the door as quietly as she could. She used a quick spell to dampen the noise that she would make so that her plan could come to a perfect fruition, then turned on the shower. She couldn't help but let a silly grin slide on her face as she stepped underneath the shower head. Picking up the special bottle of body wash, she sat down and squirted half of the bottle onto the pitiful amount of floof she had, then vigorously rubbed it in. She held the bottle up with a spell, her eyes darting across the back, until she found the directions.
For best results, let the body wash soak in after a good lather. Then wash it off within 2 minutes.
She read out loud.
Repeat twice a day for a week to achieve proper fur floof.
Twilight rolled her eyes as she moved out from under the stream of water.
So that's why Rainbow has more floof than me. I've just been washing it off after a minute.
She said with glee.
But I don't have a week. I only have a few minutes.
Tossing the bottle aside, she rubbed the body wash onto her breast until her limbs grew weary, then lit her horn, amplifying the effects of the body wash. Her horn grew hot from effort, sweat dripping down in between her eyes, and after a couple minutes of holding the spell, she finally released it, panting softly. She moved back under the stream of water and washed away the body wash, helping the process along by wiping it away with a hoof.
Oh my gosh.
She thought as her breath caught in her throat. She didn't even have to look down to know that she had achieved her most base desires. Her floof felt bigger than Rainbow's by a long shot. As the sud slipped from her breast, she glanced down, her eyes wide. What once held a pitiful, embarrassing amount of floof, now held floof at least twice as fluffier as Rainbow's.
If she doesn't love this, she's crazy.
She said with a giggle. She turned off the shower, used magic to dry herself off, then she pulled open the bathroom door as slowly as she could, wincing at every little squeak the hinges made. Twilight crept back over to the bed and gingerly climbed back in, using her magic to pull the curtains shut a little bit so that they could resume snuggling and sleeping if Rainbow desired to do so. Unable to keep a silly grin off her face, she nuzzled Rainbow's floof with her cheek, loving each and every second of it. Rainbow stirred awake with a soft groan.
Hey, Dash.
Twilight giggled, her tail swishing around on the sheets as she slipped back under the covers.
Notice something different about me?
She asked, her rump wiggling about in excitement as she pushed her breast outwards, using her upper forelegs to make it seem fluffier than it was. Rainbow lifted her head, blearily blinking a few times. She rubbed her eyes as she looked up at Twilight. Then, when she saw Twilight look down and point at her breast, her eyes went wide.
Whoa, you have a lot more floof than I remember,
she said, her voice sounding rather hoarse.
Yep. I used more of the body wash and used a simple spell to make my floof just like yours.
Twilight said, her voice full of mirth. She nuzzled Rainbow's floof again, then laid down on her side, staring into Rainbow's eyes.
So, remember how you said you wanted me to help you solve your little floof problem?
Rainbow nodded as she laid her head back onto the pillow. Twilight opened her wing and laid across Rainbow's back, applying a little bit of pressure as a sign for her to scoot closer to her.
If you want to nuzzle my floof, you can see just how soft and warm and awesome floof can be,
she said, feeling her cheeks heat up as she blushed. Rainbow was simply mesmerized by the sheer amount of floof on Twilight's breast. It puffed out rather distinctly from her breast, looking like she had glued a pillow onto her fur.
Rainbow, my eyes are up here,
Twilight said with a sly smirk. After a few seconds of silence, Rainbow shook her head and blinked a couple times, then looked back up into Twilight's eyes.
Huh? Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Twilight rolled her eyes.
Yeah, obviously. Wanna try snuggling with me and my floof?
She asked, applying a little bit more pressure onto Rainbow's back.
Oh, yeah, sure.
She said. She licked her lips and pushed herself onto Twilight's breast, her eyes never leaving her sheer amount of floofy floof. She poked it with a hoof, much like Twilight had done with her own floof just last night.
Wow, you're right. Your floof is really soft.
she said, her voice holding no small amount of amazement.
It's even softer if you nuzzle it.
Twilight said with a chuckle.
Really?
Rainbow leaned in and firmly pressed her cheek against it, feeling its softness and warmth caress her fur. Her eyes slid shut as she hummed softly and content, her nuzzles become longer, deeper, and more insistent.
You weren't lying when you said having Floof is awesome, were you?
She asked with a grin, her ears flopping back to lay flat on her head.
Nope. I wouldn't lie to you, Rainbow.
Twilight said, using her magic to pull the sheets back up to their shoulders. She draped her right hind leg over Rainbow's flank and flicked her tail on top of hers.
So, what do you think? Want to sleep in for a bit and see what you think about keeping your Floof when we wake up?
Rainbow snuggled deeper into her embrace, finding a comfortable position to sleep in. She felt Twilight's wing wrapped around her back a little more, then when Twilight wrapped a hoof around her back, she let her forelegs curl up to her chest.
If I say I'll keep my Floof for a little bit longer, would you...
Her mouth felt incredibly dry.
Would you want to snuggle more this week? That was the best night's sleep I've gotten in months. I'd love that, Dash.
Twilight yawned as she used her magic to shut the curtains the rest of the way.
I'd love that a lot.
Support me on Patreon. Subscribe and make sure to ring that notification bell to know when I post new content. And please, feel free to join the Lotus Garden. Links in the description. Thanks for listening, and look forward to more. Good night, everyone.